My fiance refused to put my name on the mortgage, so I refused to pay.
If it ain't got my name on it, then it ain't mine.
Facts. We learned that in first grade. For some background, I, 29 female, and my fiance, 30 male, have been together for 10 years. We had a baby back in 2020, and I lost my job around the same time. Our lease to our apartment was up, and my grandma offered for us to move in with her, so we did. We basically had our own little apartment rent-free. By the way, this comes from user Embarrassing Lemon, and if you want to submit your own stories, go to the r/OK Storytime subreddit. So, I had thrown the idea of going to school out there, and everyone agreed it was a good idea. My fiance paid for it, and my grandma watched my baby while I went to class. I graduate this semester. I did part-time for a couple semesters, and my fiance has been making $90,000 a year for the past couple years.
Wow!
And $70,000 when we first moved in. He saved a good amount of money. We agreed to wait to get married until I finished school and we could buy a house together. We've been looking at houses more seriously for the past couple of months, and we found one we both love. We started talking to a mortgage broker, and that's when he dropped the bomb on it being him and only him on the mortgage and the deed. He said I wouldn't have anything to do with it. I didn't say anything in the meeting, but afterwards I told him I thought we were buying the house together.
Yeah.
And I'd pay half the mortgage. He said I would be paying half the mortgage, but my name just wouldn't be on it.
If you're paying half the mortgage, put your name on it, man.
I told him that would mean I had no right to the house, and he said he knew. He said since he saved the 40% down, that it's only fair that he has the rights to the house in case we end things. I told him if that's what he wants to do, then I'm not paying for the mortgage. I said this isn't a partnership, and if he just wants his own place, that's fine, but I'm not paying for it. He called me a B. He says that he paid for everything for the past few years, including my schooling. I told him I stayed home and watched our child so we didn't have to pay for daycare, and that ended up saving us money since I would have only been able to work part-time. He said he didn't care and that I need to pay for half since I already agreed to it, which is fine. Put me on the mortgage. Put me on the mortgage then.
Thank God you guys aren't married yet.
Reddit, am I the a-hole for refusing to pay the mortgage? Not at all. Not at all.
Nope. Don't
even
pay
offer
for
to
something
compromise.
That you're not on. Nope.
See, that's fine. If you weren't like, how dare you? You're like, fine. If you want the house, you can have the house, but you have to pay for the mortgage.
Yeah. If you want it to be just your house, then buy it.
So there's an edit here. Originally, we were supposed to move in with my grandma for a few months while we saved some money for renting a new place. I thought maybe it'd be a good idea to go to school so I'd make more money and we could potentially buy a place. My grandma said we should stay with her until I finished school so we could save up for a life together, and my fiance and I agreed that we would be buying a house together. He paid for the schooling because we were getting married, and my student loans would have been our problem, not just mine. He encouraged me to finish my education so we could give our child a better quality of life. Another edit, for those of you saying him paying for my schooling would be more expensive than rent, my schooling in total cost $17,000 across 5 years, which is $3,400 a year on average. And there is an update. First, thank you to everyone who commented. A lot of you had great insight and were very supportive. To those who weren't, I got to see a perspective of how my fiance might be feeling. So thank you for that too, although some of you were extremely misogynistic. To answer some questions, my grandma offered to give us a place to stay for a few months while I looked for a job, so we could save some money. This was the beginning of the lockdown and no one was sure what the job market would look like in the future. I had brought up finishing my degree and my grandma offered to watch the baby while I was in class. My fiance said he'd pay for it since we didn't have to pay for rent or daycare. He called it, my schooling, an investment in our future. I got a Pell Grant and a scholarship, so we ended up only having to pay on average $3,400 a year for the schooling. If I wasn't going to school, my grandma didn't want us staying there long term. This was purely her trying to give us a leg up and help us in our future. She wouldn't have done so if she knew what my fiance was going to do. She has said this. For the update, I told my fiance we needed to talk about this arrangement, and I asked why he changed his mind all of a sudden. He said he worked hard for his money and didn't want to lose everything if we got divorced.
That's what prenups are for.
Right, it's
That's
like,
what
why?
prenups are for.
Why did we not? Are we not gonna do that? Do we not?
Yeah.
Are we not doing that?
He's thinking so selfishly. Because right now, supposedly they're in a
incredibly
relationship
disrespectful.
that's supposedly good.
Right.
But his thinking is, well, I want you to get nothing right now while they're in a good relationship. He's not even thinking like, oh, if we got divorced, I would want, it to be fair and equitable. Like, hopefully that never happens. Right now, he's thinking, I want you to get nothing. I want
Certainly
you
not
to
the
be
house.
screwed over. Yeah.
I want you to have no rights to the house. I said that was fair, but he's now putting me in a position to lose everything. if I have zero rights to the property. He said I didn't save up the money, so the house should be his and his alone unless I also put down 40%. I asked if he considered a prenup that would give him the 40% he put down, and we'd split 50-50 the rest of the equity. I said this would protect the lump sum he put down, which was his money, while also giving me equity I'd be paying for. He said he'd have to think about it, but he doesn't like the idea of having to sell if we split.
What? He's only thinking about you guys divorcing. Don't get married to a man that literally only thinks about you guys divorcing.
I said, then he can get his own place that he can afford on his own if he doesn't want me on the title that badly. This one he could barely afford with just his income. I'm not sure if he'd even be approved for the mortgage on his own, to be honest. I also mentioned that I wanted to do couples therapy before we got married, and he said no, that we didn't need therapy and I just needed to listen to him. He's been red-pilled.
Yeah,
he's been red-pilled.
We're done. This relationship can't work. It cannot work if he cannot compromise, cannot communicate, and refuses to get therapy.
He's literally rocking with like the biblical definition of like husbands and wives.
Yep.
So that was the end of that conversation. I don't know who this person is. This is not the man I had a child with. The man I had a child with massaged me every night while I was pregnant. He listened attentively to every random thing I wanted to talk about. He treated me with the utmost respect, and he was the only person I wanted with me while I gave birth. He used to say he could never hurt me or screw me over because it would hurt our child. I love him so much, I don't know what happened. Usually when people like foil their own plans that have been set for a long time, it's because they're trying to create a problem that the other person has to like make a decision about.
Yep.
There's a second update. Thank you to everyone who commented on my last post. You've shown me that I'm not alone in this and that other people have gone through the same. And folks, that's true about almost every situation in life. You're never alone.
No singular situation is unique.
I also feel vindicated in my decision to not pay half the mortgage if I'm not on the deed. Anyways, tonight he and I got to talking about the arrangement again. He said he didn't want to do the prenup I mentioned in my last update. So I told him my final offer was couples therapy and getting married before we buy a house. I told him we should get a rental temporarily until we figure everything out and come to an agreement. He outright refused again. He said he didn't want to waste money renting. He then said I'm not entitled to any of his money and he won't buy a house after we marry because I'll just win it in a divorce. Pre-divorce right now. Pre-divorce.
He's
Let
already
me
thinking
save
about
you
it.
the trouble, buddy.
He's already in pre-divorce mode.
I'm mostly just getting married for the divorce.
Yeah.
And I want to make sure I win it, dude.
I'm
a winner.
gonna win.
I said, fine, we won't get married. He asked if I was breaking up with him, and I said, I don't know, but I need space.
Like he broke up with her a while ago.
He lost his marbles. He called me a witch and a gold digger and told me I owe him $30,000, which I don't know where he got that number from. He said I'm used up and no one will ever want me again. Oh, thank God you didn't marry this man.
Yep.
He went on a rant yelling at me for about 3 minutes until my grandma came over to us and told him to leave. He's staying the night at a hotel and has called me repeatedly. He's left a few angry voicemails. I just feel so numb. My baby is confused and keeps asking why I'm upset and where their dad went. I hate this entirely. To everyone who mentioned he might have gotten in with the manosphere or red pill content, you were right. I looked at who he subscribed to on YouTube and sure enough, I saw Joe Rogan, Fresh and Fit podcast, Just Pearly Things, and Aiden Ross. I just like interesting stuff, dude. I don't want to watch stuff people telling me how I need to think or how I need to act or how I need to be. I just like watching cool people talk about stuff.
I just don't understand how you can be in a relationship, seemingly successful, have a child, and then watch all of these red pill things that are like, if you want to be an alpha male and have a girl that loves you, and then believe them. Like you're in this beautiful, like the loving relationship.
Like you already crossed the finish line for all of this stuff.
Like all of those advice things are usually about trying to get a woman. You're already in a relationship with her.
Right.
Like I don't understand.
Yes. She clearly like looked up to you and respected you for the, the money that you brought home and for helping her and like was like excited to build her life alongside you.
Yeah. Like I understand in a messed up way why like men who have never been in a relationship or are like chronically single, why they get sucked into these patterns of thinking because they're angry and lonely and blame women for the problems and stuff. I understand why they get sucked into these rabbit holes, but like a person in a healthy relationship, I don't get how you would like succumb to that brainwashing so easily.
Probably because having a kid is hard.
Yeah. And he's like, well, my child doesn't respect me and my wife wants me to take care of her child.
Something like that. I don't know. It's safe to say he's fallen down the manosphere rabbit hole. I know the man I fell in love with is gone, and there's nothing I can do about it. By the way, you know what you can do is listen to full episodes with stories just like this on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, wherever you listen to podcasts. All you got to do is search OK Storytime, and you've got every episode we ever recorded in the palm of your hands, just waiting. Your ears are just they're just begging to listen to him. So why don't you just do that? There were definitely signs I didn't notice. He was always saying he was saving his money and he was buying a house. He also said on more than one occasion he was the man of the house. He got really big on being a provider and protector. I didn't put it all together until now. His behavior change has been pretty recent, like the last 8 or 9 months, and that's it. My life's a crap show. Writing it out has been somewhat therapeutic. Thank you all again for your support, and that is the end of that story.
Leave him.
Let it be known, man.
I caught my boyfriend with his ex, so I took off the ring and left.
Ooh, you go, girl. Let's go.
And trigger warning for SA as in an unrequited kiss. Hi all, it's been a week since I left my fiance's apartment and guilt is starting to eat me up. So I decided to post and maybe get some outside perspective. By the way, this comes from Runaway Patat. And if you want to submit your own stories, go to the r/OK Storytime subreddit. So, for background, my fiance, 27 male, let's call him Jake, and I, 27 female, met during the last 2 years of high school. His parents are both business people in the city, but moved to our town for a change of scenery. I was the first one to actually talk to him and introduced him to my friends. He was very shy, but got comfy with us. We eventually became best friends. Later on, I developed a huge crush on him, but didn't confess, as I was afraid that if my feelings were unrequited, it would affect our friendship. I used to tease him about us getting married when we grow up, though, and he would go along with it. We got separated in college as we took different fields. He took business ad and I took IT. And he attended his dream school back in the city, which his parents fully supported. I, on the other hand, attended a local college as we weren't wealthy enough to get me anywhere. My mom passed away when I was 7, which destroyed my dad. He fell into bad habits and only pulled himself together when he had a health scare when I was 12. He had to switch to a lighter job because of this. We're living comfortably, but I didn't want to bother him for my personal expenses, so I took a part-time job at my aunt's bakery. I also took a scholarship, which helped my dad with my college expenses. Jake would go home to visit his parents every weekend. This was also the time when our friend group would hang out. As time passed, our friends started to get busier to the point that it was just the two of us who continued hanging out. During this time, he met his then girlfriend, 27 female, let's call her Claire. He asked me one weekend if he should confess, and I told him if that's what would make him happy. A month later, he brought Claire with him to introduce her to his parents as well as our friend group. Claire was visibly tense around me, so I did my best so she wouldn't be. Jake didn't visit as often anymore, but if he did, he would always bring Claire with him. As for me, I still had feelings for him, but seeing him happy was already enough for me. I respected his relationship and became more careful with my interactions with him. We used to chat a lot, but now we only chatted if he initiated. Whenever the two of them came to visit, I maintained my distance and avoided crossing any boundaries. However, one weekend, Jake came alone and asked me if we could talk. Side note about Jake, he's stupidly honest. When he wants to say something important, he always wants to do it personally, not through chat, text, call, or even a third party. That's why I was so nervous when he asked me. I met him in our usual hangout spot, and there he told me that we might not be able to hang out anymore as often. He told me that Claire was actually not comfortable with our friendship, and they had already started having some disagreements. He told me he was sorry, that he didn't know what to do. I told him that it was okay and that I would always be right here if he needed. Once I got home, I chatted with Claire and apologized for making her feel uncomfortable. She apologized too and acknowledged my efforts for not crossing any boundaries, but she just couldn't shake the feeling of unease. After that, I cried the whole night. Thankfully, my dad was there to comfort me. He told me to let all my pain out, and I promised myself to never cry for the same reason again. After that, the communication between Jake and me went down to just greetings during birthdays and holidays. I just focused on myself and was able to get my degree. I took some interviews and landed a job in the city. I had to move to the city alone at first, but after my dad relapsed and got hospitalized, I brought him with me. At first, he didn't want to come as he hated living in the city, but I I was persistent. I didn't want him out of my sight. I didn't want to lose another parent. One afternoon during late October of 2019, I was doing some groceries when I bumped into Jake. I was so surprised to see him personally after almost 4 years. He greeted me and said he was relocating to this city and was living nearby. He then invited me to a nearby cafe to catch up, which I accepted. We pretty much caught up on everything that happened. I asked him how he and Claire were doing. He said that they had broken up around March that year. He told me they discovered how different their life goals were, which led to a lot of arguments. They decided to split up on good terms, but he said it actually hurt him so much as Claire was his first love. The air felt tense, so I just shifted the conversation back to our high school days. He brought up how I used to tease him about marrying him when we grew up, and I joked about us being adults now. At that moment, I just decided to confess to him. Wow, that I actually had a huge crush on him and decided not to confess because I was afraid to lose the friendship we had. You still have a crush on him after 4 years?
I don't think that was the right moment.
That wasn't the right moment.
That categorically not the right moment.
You still had a crush on him after 4 years? Like an active crush? I then let go of it when he brought Claire one day as a sign of respect to the relationship. He again fell silent, then apologized. He said he just realized how big the impact probably was when he asked me to go low contact for Claire's sake. I told him that it was fine and that I thought that it was the best that we could do to put Claire at ease at the time. He was visibly guilty, so I told him that it was all in the past now. After that, he offered to drive me home, which saved me some money on commute. I thanked him and we started chatting again like the old times. Our friend group decided to have a reunion around December that year. It was also when Jake asked me on a date. He said he did some reflection and realized that maybe he was actually dating the wrong girl all along. Shocked, I agreed to the date, and it led to another until we became official. Then came 2020 with the threat of the virus.
The virus.
My dad and I decided to go back to town before the city locked down. Jake also decided to be with his family during this time, so all three of us traveled back to town. Jake introduced me as his girlfriend to his parents through video call. They already knew me for a long time as I was the first friend Jake had back in high school. They were overjoyed about it, which made us happy. Mid-2022, I lost my dad. I was so mad at myself as I was seeing the signs. I was begging him to get checked, but he kept telling me he was fine. We got him checked, but it was too late. I was so heartbroken losing my remaining parent. Fortunately, my aunt's family and Jake's family were very supportive.
Don't blame yourself. Can't blame yourself for that.
Yeah.
It's not up to you.
Jake even promised on my dad's grave that he would take care of me for the rest of our lives, which brought me to tears. After his funeral, we decided that I'd move to Jake's apartment. We had to go back to the city as companies started requiring employees to go back to the office again. And from then on, we were living together. Fast forward to Jake's department's New Year's party in 2024. Their families were invited, but since Jake's parents weren't able to travel, I was the only one he could bring. What I didn't expect was him proposing to me that night. Everyone was in on it, and it was actually so magical. After everything that happened between us back in college, this is something I never imagined would happen. But here we are. It was actually a dream come true. We decided to get married in June. I thought everything would be smooth sailing from here, but unfortunately, this is when everything started to go downhill. And here we are at the problem. Around March 2024, I started to see some changes in Jake. He was a bit distant. I didn't talk as much before. Worried, I immediately talked to him about this. He told me that this was actually a very challenging year for their company, even more than the last. He blamed it on stress and apologized. I believed him. As I said earlier, he's stupidly honest, but he didn't change for the better. I think his behavior got worse. He didn't show any signs of cheating. Although I'd seen him more glued to his phone, he never really hid it from me. I knew his passcode and had my own fingerprint registered on his phone, and he never changed it or removed it. He never came home at unreasonable hours, no late night work, or any work travel at all. I had many sit downs with him and he always blamed stress. Now it's already nearing the end of April and no plans were created for our wedding.
What? You're 2 months out of wedding time? No, you got to push it back.
You have to push it back.
Or to do a secret.
Jake asked to talk and asked me to move the wedding to September. He said he was still pretty much occupied with work and didn't want to get on our special day distracted instead of being happy. I understood this. So we moved the wedding to September. But we had the same talk during August and moved the wedding to November until we ultimately decided to get married in May next year. He was very apologetic, and I told him that I understood, but to please do something for himself as I'm starting to get worried about him. I stopped having these conversations with him as I feel like it only adds more pressure to him, which I didn't want. One day in late January 2025, Jake had a headache in the morning that he had to take an SL for the day. I made sure he had everything he needed before leaving for work and planned to check on him in the afternoon. Oh no, I see you. I remember it was raining all day that day. I went back to check on him during lunch, but was not prepared for what I was about to witness. When I opened the door, I saw him and Claire kissing in the hallway to our bedroom. I froze and just stared back at them until my vision started to get blurry. My mind went everywhere, but I was snapped back to reality when Jake called my name. He was about to approach me, so I instinctively did a 180 and power walked out of the apartment building. It felt like I disconnected from my body and it went on autopilot.
That's called depersonalization.
I didn't know where to go, but the goal was to get far away. I was swimming with thoughts and lost my awareness. I was pulled back to down to earth when I slipped and fell down the stairs outside our apartment building. I slid down from the last 4 steps and hit my head on the edge of the step. I felt an intense pain immediately on my head and tried rubbing the area, thinking it would lessen the pain, but panic set in when I saw blood on my head. I was so stressed and overwhelmed that I lost consciousness. Oh my God. Before I blacked out, I heard Jake calling me. Oh my God. I woke up in a hospital a few hours later. The nurse said that fortunately I didn't break any bones, but to expect some pain in my lower body as I had huge bruises. She also said that they already scanned my head as per Jake's request and didn't find anything else, but they had to stitch my head wound. She said I'd be under observation overnight, and if nothing goes wrong, then I'll be able to be discharged the next day.
Well, hey, say what you will about Jake, but at least he did say, get her head checked. I'm
kind of wondering, based off of what we know from the beginning of the story, if she kissed him.
Either way, no.
She reminded me to please inform them if I feel anything wrong so they can check immediately. I thanked her and she left. As soon as she left, Jake rushed to my side and held my hand, which I pulled back. He asked me to please let him explain as what I'd seen was a misunderstanding. I didn't talk nor look at him that time because my heart would break, but I think he took my silence as yes. He took a deep breath and started explaining that during their company-wide celebration around March, he unexpectedly met Claire.
So this is now so that was 2 months ago.
And he didn't tell you.
Yep, so that's a lie. That's deceit.
He swore he didn't know Claire was also working in the same company. He said she was probably in a different department, which means different location. At first, he wanted to ignore her, but since they split up on a good note, he hesitantly greeted her back. And then he said they started talking again after that. Something in me snapped when I heard that because I knew he started acting strange around that same time. I cut him off and asked him if that's the reason why he started getting distant. He was visibly shocked and was about to defend himself, but I didn't let him. I told him that it all made sense now, why he changed all of a sudden, why he had to move our wedding 3 times. It's because he and Claire met again. I started ugly crying and asked why he did this to me. I was kind to him all throughout. Why would he take me so high just to drop me back down? He was trying to comfort me, but I didn't let him. He then took another deep breath and told me that we should just continue our conversation next time when I calmed down. He told me that I'm currently overwhelmed and will not accept anything he says because my emotions will control me. He said he'll give me space, and he went to the bed opposite the room. I tried to compose myself as the nurses checked on me every 30 minutes, I think, but I couldn't hide myself silently crying. Fortunately, none of them pried and just advised me to take some rest. I just kept crying, and around midnight, I heard Jake leave the room, leaving me alone with my thoughts. What else could it be then? Why would he be kissing his ex in our apartment in the hallway to our bedroom? Why didn't he tell me they met again for a whole year then? Was he just blaming everything on stress to cover up? I didn't see any signs of him cheating. Is he testing the waters? Is he checking if the two of them could work things out, and if not, he'll just marry me instead? I felt like my whole world just crumbled down. I guessed everything was indeed just a fantasy. After getting discharged, I knew he was trying to bring up the conversation again, but he couldn't. We were not talking ever since it happened. My performance at work dropped, which led my manager to ask me if there was any problem. I was close to her as we worked together for so many years now, so I was comfortable spilling everything out to her. She told me maybe I should take a leave of absence and get into therapy, but since we are only allowed to take up 2 months of leave of absence, I don't think it'll be enough for me. I also didn't want to be a burden to my teammates, so I decided to resign and let her know. She told me to contact her if I wanted to come back, which I appreciated. I rendered my last month through February and March, and Jake didn't know anything about this. I felt so suffocated and really wanted out. I felt like passing away every day, and it's like the pain gets more intense the longer I stay with him. I plan to also just leave him and go back to town, which I already let my aunt know. She's currently the caretaker of our family. Last week when Jake left for work, I packed my bags and left. I left a note for him with the engagement ring and told him all the things I can't say personally, as I'm too hurt to face him. I arrived at my family home around dusk. He tried calling and texting me, but I ignored him all of it. I just sent him a text that I safely arrived and to please give me some space. He replied that he would still be waiting for me to give him another chance to talk and will not bother me anymore. What pushed me to post this is because his parents visited me earlier today. His mom, 57 female, let's call her Anna, informed me that Jake also went home 2 days after I left. She said he was wrecked. She asked what happened, and he only informed them about what I saw. His parents were obviously shocked, but he said it was not the full story. When asked, he didn't want to tell them because he was suspecting that they would visit me and tell me what he told them, and he didn't like that. He said he wanted to tell everything to me by himself and wanted everything to come from him. Even when they promised they wouldn't tell me, he wouldn't budge.
He's like, I have to master manipulate the situation.
Well,
you guys don't have the
if you
chops.
guys tell it, she's just going to be like, oh, I never want to get back with him.
If she hears it from me, once I figure out how to lay it down, she's going to be in love with me the rest of eternity.
Now his father, 58 male, let's call him John, told me that they're not here to beg for me to give Jake a chance to explain. He said they also wanted to know my side. I told them everything that happened since March last year. They were silent for a while. Then Anna told me that no matter what my decision will be, they will support me. But they're also hoping that I find it in my heart to give Jake a chance, because while it might look suspicious, they believe that Jake would not hurt me. She said that they will still always be there for me if I ever needed help, even if I decide to break up with Jake, that they'll understand. I cried, as they were actually very kind people, and I'm actually sad that this happened to us. I started to doubt my decisions, that maybe I should have let him say his piece. I also asked my aunt for advice, but even she was also torn, as she believes Jake wouldn't do such a thing, that maybe there's an explanation. She told me to first let every negative emotion flow out of me. Then once I have a clear head, that's when I should make a decision. I'm so sorry if this got too long, but I hope I gave the details you guys needed. Am I the a-hole for leaving him without giving him a chance to explain his side? 2 days after I posted, I was invited by my closest cousin, my aunt's eldest, 26 female, call her Jean, to work part-time again in their bakery. She said my aunt knows I'm not struggling financially, but maybe it'll help me put my mind off things. I've been working there for 2 days now. I always leave my phone whenever I go to work so I won't get distracted or be reminded of anything. But today, something caught my eye when I checked for notifications when I got home. I saw Claire chatted with, OP, please read first, don't block me yet, on the preview. I opened it out of curiosity and wondered why it's in all caps. I decided to just summarize the message because it was a bit long, but for those of who are interested, I will post her whole message. Trigger warning, SA, sorry, I don't know how to add another flare. For the summary, Claire apologized and said it was all her fault. She realized Jake's importance months after the breakup and tried finding him again. Applied to the same company to meet him, but was in a different department, so she wasn't able to meet him yet. Met him for the first time during their company's party and started messaging him through Teams, work, and Messenger. She got more desperate when she found out he was already engaged with me. She tried using his weakness against him. Jake doesn't like being talked about or getting involved in any public scenes for him to engage with her because he started avoiding her. Jake had enough and reported her to HR last January. She went to our apartment confirming that she indeed knew where we were staying when Jake didn't come to the office during D-Day as a last resort. She tried forcing him to let her in by crying and getting other people's attention to pressure Jake. She begged for him to love her again, which Jake declined, explaining we're already engaged and happy. She got mad when Jake refused her hug and threatened to accuse him of abuse. And Jake begged her to just leave and that he was done with her. She tried to get closer, but Jake backed up, but he tripped on something and she took the opportunity that he was distracted and hugged him tight and kissed him. Then she was shocked when she saw me on the doorway. Jake yelled at her after I left, which is something he never did to her before, and said that he hated her from the bottom of his heart. She finally had some clarity and realized what she did. She then apologized again, saying both Jake and I didn't deserve what happened. She said she can't get over the guilt. She tried reaching out to Jake, but he already blocked her everywhere. I'm actually terrified after reading this. I was trembling when I finished. I was so mad and disgusted and afraid at the same time. So she's been pestering Jake for a whole year and even kissed him unconsensually, I feel worse now that I didn't let him explain. But I'm also thinking maybe he asked Claire to take the fall, or maybe this is just what I think to comfort myself, to think she was lying, that those things didn't happen to Jake. I don't know. I'm so confused. But you know what's never confusing? Listening to full episodes of stories just like this. Just go to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or your favorite podcast app and search up OK Storytime. I was thinking of sending this to his parents, but I feel like this was also the reason why he wouldn't tell them anything in the first place. I'm really sorry, guys. I feel like a coward right now. By the way, I just wanted to thank you guys for sharing your thoughts in the first post. It helped me set my mind that maybe I don't really need to hear Jake's side. But after Claire's message, it kind of threw me back to the same hole I was in last week. No, that's it.
Yikes.
Again, I don't want to say, that there is no possibility that Jake was not assaulted.
It's incredibly slim.
I don't want to say that because maybe there is a chance and that's totally not okay. And Claire, that's awful. Awful. Should not have happened to him. However, there's also a chance that he's lying to you and he's involving Claire in this now.
If Claire's so obsessed in wanting this guy back, where's Claire, I don't know, at dinner time?
Yeah.
So Claire just happens to show up to the house the one day where your husband was your fiance is like, I've got a headache, I got to stay home, and now she's there, and it's like, it doesn't.
Well, you're supposed to be out for a while.
It doesn't make any sense. It's too convenient.
It's really
way too convenient. I saw a comment that said something along the lines of I don't tell my SO everything, which is fair. It's you don't need to tell your significant other everything. But if you run into the ex-girlfriend that you guys both have a history with, that is very much I don't know if cornerstone is the right word, but it's she was heavily involved in y'all's story of how y'all got together.
Yeah.
I think it'd be pretty freaking relevant to be hey, well, you won't believe who works for my company.
Yeah.
If it was my partner, she'd find out day one.
Exactly.
Unless I was hiding it from her because I'm
And also, he submitted an HR report, never told you. But that's the end of that story and the end of that episode. If you love us, make sure to subscribe.
We love you, and see you tomorrow.